that Americans spend $50 billion a year on bottled water? From $1 bottles to $60,000 bottles. But how does something as simple as water become a billion-dollar industry? To find out, we must first go back 400 years to a magical spring called Holywell, where the whole bottled water craze began. So picture this, it's the early 1600s in the lush rolling hills of Malvern, England. A small spring known to the locals as the Holywell trickles with crystal clear water that's rumored to possess miraculous healing properties. When some holy men from a nearby church heard about this water's extraordinary powers, they start bottling it up. Soon, the first bottles from the Holywell water were making their way to the sick and weary who couldn't make their trip to the spring. And before you know it, this little humble spring in the hills of the English countryside quickly becomes the destination that people travel from afar for. And thus, the Holywell became the birthplace of the bottled water. But to understand why the water from the Holywell was such a big deal, you have to imagine what life was like back in the 1600s. There was no modern plumbing, clean water wasn't easy to come by, and most people got their water from wells, rivers, and communal pumps. And these sources were often contaminated with bacteria and waste. So bottling the water wasn't just about convenience, it was about capturing the potential health benefits from this sacred spring. Even one respected doctor at the time, Dr. John Wall, even ran tests on the water. And what he found was surprising. He said,
"This water is so pure it contains nothing at all. No minerals, no contaminants, just incredibly clean water."
And this belief in healing spring water wasn't new. People have been attributing health benefits to natural waters for centuries. You can trace it all the way back to the 1st century AD to the Pool of Bethesda in Jerusalem, where people waited by the spring water hoping to be healed. But Malvern's Holywell marked a turning point. It was the first known instance of spring water being bottled and sold. So let's fast forward 100 years, right? By the mid-1700s, that little spark from England had jumped across the Atlantic. Now we're in Boston in 1767. And just like in Malvern, there's a spring bubbling up from the ground. And people say that the water can heal everything from bad digestion to low spirits. They call it the Jackson Spa. Now don't let the word spa fool you. This wasn't some luxury retreat with cucumber water and hot stone massages. Jackson Spa was America's first wellness spring, which was a place where people lined up to get a taste for healthy water. And recognizing that demand, the people that owned the spa started letting people bottle up the water, but for a price. They even advertised in the newspaper and said, 1 copper for the use of water and another copper for every quart bottle you fill and take home. And just for reference, 1 copper coin at the time was quite affordable. Usually a piece of copper would buy you a small loaf of bread. But if you couldn't afford that, the ad also said that if you brought a doctor's note, you could drink for free. Kind of like free healthcare. But Jackson Spa was just the beginning of the American bottled water story. Okay, so let's do a brief recap. So people have been bottling up natural spring water for therapeutic use for centuries. It hydrated and healed people and everybody loved it, but at the time it was simply just water in a bottle. Not until Saratoga Springs came along. So Saratoga Springs was in upstate New York, and like the other springs, it offered pure mineral spring water, with one exception. It was carbonated, which made it even more special. Due to Saratoga's naturally carbonated and mineral-rich waters, people believed that the bubbles made the magic healing powers more potent. People traveled from everywhere to get a taste of this sparkling water from the ground, and slowly the town built hotels, bathhouses, and restaurants and other recreational amenities, all around the fact that this place had a bunch of natural soda water coming from the ground. So eventually, Saratoga Springs evolved into a renowned resort destination for the wealthy and famous. They actually called it the Queen of Spas, attracting wealthy Americans and even European aristocrats seeking health, relaxation, and exclusivity. Even the founding fathers like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson visited these springs to seek health benefits. So the town itself developed a reputation for luxury and high society, and when they began bottling the spring water in 1872, they even used the name Saratoga Vinci, which was a nod to a French luxury spa town called the Vinci Springs. So they were intentionally associating their product with European sophistication.
The port is quite good.
Yes, quite good.
Indeed.
Most certainly.
What year is it?
51?
Ah,
Delectable.
indeed.
Yes.
Oh dear. What is it?
I've spontaneously combusted.
Oh, I am sorry.
Oh, it's quite all right. I've grown tired of living.
Ah, very good then.
For the best.
Yes, indeed.
The funny thing though was that their distinct blue bottle was originally a cost-saving measure because it was cheaper to use the blue glass. But ironically, it became a symbol of elegance and luxury that is something that's still held up today. So although Saratoga Springs was the first instance of American marketing their fancy bottled water, it's important to note that throughout Europe and European brands like Evian and Perrier day, they were already selling bottled mineral water as a luxury product to the wealthy for decades. And drinking bottled water was already a normal part of European life. This will be important to know later. The evolution of the bottled water in America, though, would eventually hit a snag. So by the early 1900s, public water filtration and treatment began. Cities began chlorinating their water, and suddenly this meant that tap water became safe to drink. And the need to buy water in bottles just plummeted. And by 1930s, bottled water sales just dropped. These water companies struggled to market their water to Americans. So at this point, companies desperately needed to find a way to sell water back to people again. Enter the king of bottled water. So in the 1960s, a man named Fred Sipper, he owned a small grocery store in New York City. He was looking to attract people that would spend more money. So he was attracting a more upscale European clientele. So he began stocking Perrier sparkling water, a product already well known and widely consumed in Europe. So it was part of their daily life. Turns out his strategy worked. Tons of European people started coming to his store to buy water, and when the demand started to grow, he took out full-page ads in the New York Times to promote Perrier and also his small store. He went from buying cases of Perrier to importing pallets of this bottled water. He sold to upscale restaurants, hotels, and other retailers, once again popularizing premium bottled water in the United States. When they recognized the growing demand for their product, Perrier, the company, officially entered the American market in 1977. They launched a bold advertising campaign dubbed Earth's First Soft Drink. They even hired Orson Welles, the famous radio voice, to do the commercial.
Deep below the plains of southern France.
So I was just editing this and I realized probably nobody knows who Orson Welles was. He was a legendary filmmaker and a viral content producer. He made the movie Citizen Kane, and he also tricked a bunch of people to think that we were being invaded by aliens on the radio, of all places. Anyways, back to the thing.
In a mysterious process begun millions of years ago, nature herself adds life to the icy waters of a single spring, Perrier. Its natural sparkle is more delicate than any made by man, and therefore more quenching, more refreshing. From the center of the earth, Perrier.
Their timing was perfect. During the 1970s, the US was swept up by a new fitness craze. People were working out a lot. Health-conscious Americans, like joggers and celebrities, they began turning to bottled water as a healthier alternative to sugary sodas. So Perrier capitalized on this trend by aligning themselves with that wellness movement. The brand sponsored marathons, they ran strategic advertisements, they marketed themselves as a sophisticated, health-smart choice. And because of this, by the 1980s, Perrier was selling over 300 million bottles a year, and it became the go-to for sparkling water. And with Perrier's success in this industry, the major beverage companies started strategizing on how they could tap into this lucrative market, because selling something people they would otherwise get for free was simply too good of an opportunity to ignore. So in 1994, Pepsi quietly launched Aquafina. But here's the key difference. Unlike Perrier, Aquafina's water wasn't from a natural spring at all. It was filtered municipal water. Pepsi figured that it could leverage its existing soda bottling and distribution system and just sell purified tap water at scale. They literally said it in their slogan too. They said,
Aquafina, so pure, we promise nothing.
Because they're selling nothing. In 1999, Coca-Cola did the same thing where they debuted Dasani. Dasani was also purified local tap water with a dash of minerals for taste.
Just like Dasani ruined water.
Hey, guys, so you know how water tastes like nothing? Well, what if it tasted like every bottle had a nickel in it?
They spent so much money on this. In 2001, Pepsi spent $14 million to promote Aquafina, and Coke spent $20 million on Dasani. And due to their efforts, bottled water became as common as soda by the early 2000s. At this point, people were just buying water in bottles for convenience, and bottled water consumption kept skyrocketing. In fact, in 2016, it even overtook carbonated soft drinks, becoming the #1 beverage to be sold by volume in this country. So originally, bottled water came from natural springs. Now, about half of bottled water is just tap water. Now, you might be wondering what's wrong with tap water. Well, in the US, it typically comes from rivers, lakes, and underground sources, and it goes through a series of treatments, filtration, disinfection, and sometimes with the addition of chemicals to make the water safe to drink. So in a way, you could make the argument that tap water isn't as pure as natural spring water, but that's not the point here. The point is that if bottled water is just tap water, Why am I paying for it? I mean, at this point, it should be clear you're not paying for the water. You're paying for the branding, the marketing, the lifestyle, and the image. Take this fancy bottle of water, for example. This bottle holds the Guinness World Record for the most expensive bottle of water ever sold. It's $60,000 for 750 mils. And yes, the water itself is a blend of spring water from France and Fiji with glacier water from Iceland. But the real reason for the price tag? It's the bottle. The bottle is made of 24 karat gold and was designed by this famous designer. So the question remains, are you paying for water or are you paying for a status symbol? And just for fun, let's put that water into perspective. For the cost of that one bottle, you could buy around 395,000 standard water bottles. That's enough to fill like a swimming pool. And we can't talk about the ridiculousness of marketing water without talking about Liquid Death. You know, one of the most striking examples of water as a brand. In 2009, the founder, Mike Cesario, he attended a concert where he noticed something interesting. Some of the musicians and fans, they were drinking water inside Monster energy drink cans. Why? Because people simply don't want to look uncool drinking plain bottled water at a party. That observation alone inspired Cesario to create Liquid Death, a canned water brand that looks like craft beer or an energy drink or anything else cool. And with aggressive branding, their punk metal aesthetics and their slogan, "Murder Your Thirst," Liquid water became a hit, proving once again that in today's market, people aren't just buying water, they're buying an image. Over the past decade, we've seen a wave of creative and sometimes absurd attempts at repackaging and sell what is at its core just water. So to answer the question again, what are you really paying for? You're paying for identity. It's not what's inside the bottle that's important anymore, it's what the bottle says about you. But at the end of the day, what's inside all these bottles are the same. They're simply just water. That's the Sony. That's the Sony.